Tennessee Titans fans, boy, do I got one for you today. Easton Freeze from A to Z Sports. As you can see, let me make that big for you there. The Titans, this is his tweet. I'm going to put a link to this article in the comments from A to Z Sports. Easton Freeze says the Titans would love nothing more than to land Matthew Stafford and roll into 2025 with him as their guy. I wrote about how it looks increasingly like he might be available for the right price. Like I said, the article is in the video description below. You can go check that out. But I just want to give some thoughts on this notion because I've read the article. I see his reasoning. I see what, he thinks the Titans might have to give up to get Matthew Stafford. So let's just talk about it. Matthew Stafford's 37 years old, and I believe he is still playing at an extremely high level. When you look at the landscape of things, the Rams, led by Matthew Stafford, in the snow were the closest to beating the Eagles in the playoffs. They were the closest because the Commanders got destroyed, the Chiefs got destroyed, the Packers got destroyed. The Rams put up the best fight against the Eagles. Matthew Stafford, I think, was very good. Just won the Super Bowl a few years ago there at LA. I think he was great this year. I think Matt Stafford can absolutely still play at a high level for another couple of years. I don't see the same type of washed when I look at Matthew Stafford that I see when I look at a guy like Kirk Cousins or even Aaron Rodgers. I see a guy who still is making it look easy at times in Matthew Stafford. With that being said, though, I don't see how this makes sense for the Tennessee Titans to make a trade for Matthew Stafford. I don't know how it makes any sense. When you look at the Titans right now, as we sit here on February 13th, 2025, the roster has holes everywhere. The Titans have the number one pick in the draft. Will they go edge rush, quarterback, wide receiver? All of those options are on the table because all of those positions are major needs. Not to mention defensive line depth, linebacker depth, needs some safety depth, probably could use another tight end, might even need another right guard if Dylan Radins leaves, might want to explore looking at another running back. Tyjae Spears was very injured this past season. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed, not to mention Brian Callahan, the head coach, is a huge question mark. You've got a new GM in town, a new power structure. There's just a lot to sort through with the Tennessee Titans right now. It is really the beginning stages of a full-on rebuild in Nashville. And I understand that rebuilds don't take as long as they used to, but it's still a process. And so I don't know why, if you are the Titans and you're trying to acquire more draft picks, Chad Brinker said he wants to have 12 picks in the top 100 over the next 3 years. If you're going to do that, I don't know how you do that by trading picks away for a 37-year-old quarterback. And Matt Stafford would do good. He would be a much better option than, Cousins or Rodgers or Carr or any of those guys. But what would the Titans have to give up to get him? You've got so many holes to fill on this roster, and rather than acquire picks to fill those holes, instead of keeping the picks you already have to fill those holes, you're going to give some of them up. This article, again, in the pinned comment and in the video description below, you can go read it. They proposed that the Titans give up their second-round pick in this year's draft for Matthew Stafford. We already don't have a third-round pick. Why would we do that? Yeah, Stafford's good, but do you think we're going to be a Super Bowl contender with Stafford over the next couple of years? I don't think so, and it's not because of it's not a knock on Stafford. It's just where the Titans are right now. If Matthew Stafford were going to get traded somewhere, I could see it being somewhere like Minnesota, where they've already got a really good roster and they just need an upgraded quarterback to get them over the hump. Okay, that would make a lot of sense. If the Vikings aren't sold on J.J. McCarthy yet, they want more time for him, make a trade for Matthew Stafford. The Vikings with Matthew Stafford is a Super Bowl contending team. The Steelers, some people have mentioned the Steelers potentially being a place where Matthew Stafford could go in a trade. I think the Steelers, I don't know if the Steelers would become a Super Bowl contender with him, but they would definitely rise in the ranks a little bit. Some people have mentioned the Giants making a trade for Matthew Stafford. I don't see the Giants roster really being in a position to compete, but they're probably better than the Titans roster right now. The Titans just, with all the needs they have, it just doesn't make sense to start giving up assets and giving up picks to get a guy who's only going to be here for a year or two. Yeah, he's the best option. He's better than a lot of these bridge quarterback free agent guys, sure. Much better than most of them. But it's not logical to do that right now if you're Tennessee. They want to build this team up through the draft. How are you going to do that by giving picks away for Matthew Stafford? And also, why would this move make any sense for Matthew Stafford? Stafford's getting toward the end of his career. He's in the last couple of years of his career. And so, if he wants to go out, he doesn't want to go out with the team like the Titans. He wants to go somewhere like Minnesota, like Pittsburgh, somewhere where he can step in and be a contender and compete. That's not going to happen in Nashville. Not for the next little bit. Not in a soon enough time that it would make a difference for Matthew Stafford. I don't see how that would benefit him. I know they say money talks, but also the Titans don't need to be spending a bunch of money on a 37-year-old quarterback right now. It would be different if the Titans were already a playoff team like the Vikings. The Vikings were a playoff team, but they really need an upgrade at quarterback. They need somebody better than Sam Darnold to lift them up over the hump and get them to where they can contend for a Super Bowl. That's why Matthew Stafford would be a good fit there. But in Nashville, uncertainty on the offensive line, uncertainty at wide receiver, uncertainty at head coach, it just wouldn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense for the Titans, doesn't make any sense for Matthew Stafford, in my opinion. What did the Titans, if everything else goes well for the Titans this offseason, and you get Matthew Stafford, let's say you draft Travis Hunter, you make a trade for Matthew Stafford, you make some moves in free agency, and you have a considerably better roster going into 2025. What does that get you? Does that get you a wild card spot? Does that get you in the hunt? Does that get you 7 wins? Is that worth giving up a ton of picks just to get a guy who's going to play a year or two and then be gone? Now, you may say, doesn't that same logic apply to a guy like Aaron Rodgers? Sure, but Aaron Rodgers is a free agent. You don't have to give anything up to get him. He's a lot more affordable. You don't have to give up any draft capital. You don't have to acquire him in a trade. He's going to be a free agent. You can pick him up. Same with Cousins, probably. Same with Justin Fields, for any of you that want him. Same with Sam Darnold, for any of you that want him, except that would be expensive. I just don't think it makes sense. I don't think a trade for Matthew Stafford makes sense for the Titans. I don't think it makes sense for Stafford. If you can present another point of view on this in the comments, I'll be reading. Tighten up.